the voice work at the end, doing, well, it's on Foley stage, but, you know, and I was doing the, and I didn't know she was there, she was sitting in the booth, and I was doing the screaming where I was burning to death, which was...
And she was like 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah, 4 years old, and, you know, I really had to scream for probably a minute and a half, which is a very long time to do a continuous scream. And it took everything I had, and I was really making it as painful as I could possibly muster in the far reaches of my very being. And she was there and watched and really panicked. And ran out of the place and was sobbing, and I had to get her and tell her I was fine. There was nothing to worry about. It was only a movie, and I thought, well, that's it. She's not seeing any of my movies. And she didn't. I mean, her sister did. Her sister was I wouldn't allow them to watch any horror films or anything scary, but till they were 14. That was, then you could watch whatever you wanted. That was, I don't know why I chose that age, but that was the one I chose. And so she went out and got a horror film, and I couldn't even watch it. And she sat there like this. And I knew that she'd been watching them for years. But at any rate, Fiona remembers that very well, and as her first child's play experience, and has been delighted to be terrified ever since. So.
Now, is it true that in part 6, that was the first time you actually saw Chucky in action?
Yeah, I had, you poor slobs. What a boring way to work. Sitting around waiting for a doll to do. Correctly, it just really looked like hard work. And, Fiona had to, do this. She had to be like, the night I saw it, she had to be like a canary in a cage where the poison was going to kill it. Just flapping around, trying to scream. She did that for 8 hours?
Wow.
And never back down. I went, you're going to lose your voice. And then she screamed all night, and she didn't. And I went, all that screaming she did as a kid, probably really got those vocal cords in really good shape, because I would have completely lost my voice.
Alex, we get it.
Yeah.
We always talk about it. Kids always want their dolls and their toys to come to life for their children. And you actually got to be in a film where it happened, but what a horrible way for it to happen. Did that ever did you ever come to your mind when you were doing this? Like, this is the fantasy, but this is not exactly what mom and dad or I would love that to happen.
No, not even in the slightest bit, because it was so inanimate when you were there. It was not there was no, you couldn't even fool yourself into thinking that it was real. I mean, for the sake of trying to act, that's the idea, but, you're better off thinking that, trying to pretend that Brad himself is in the doll or something. You just gotta, you can't really ever find a way to believe that this thing is real or alive, or to go home and think that it was real. And then people say, well, when you saw the movie, did it feel like it was real? And of course not, because I knew everything that was going to happen. And when especially in the first film, we didn't know, I wasn't allowed to see daily shots of what they were doing that day or anything. So I had no idea how real any of this was going to look, because it certainly didn't look real to any of us when we were there.
How protected were you on the set from the violence?
Not very. There was only a couple things.
I used to come and beat him up daily, just to whip him in shape.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, Tom was pretty aggressive on that film. He really wanted me to be scared. And because I wasn't, I think he had to try to make sure that I would be sometimes. But, no, the burnt Chucky, when I'm backing down the hallway and Chucky was burnt, stalking me down the hallway, they just did reaction shots of that. They never put me in front of that burnt doll. For some reason, they thought that would be too much for me. So I remember that. I remember when Ed Gale set himself on fire, I was able to go if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. When the scene that Brad was just talking about where he was screaming for a minute and a half is when, I say this is the end for him, and I light Chucky on fire and he bursts through the thing and spins around. That was actually Ed Gale, the little guy who was in the Chucky suit. And I was, friendly with him at the time, so I wasn't really interested in seeing him set on fire. But yeah, no, I wasn't protected from all that much. But I think they knew that I didn't need to be.
Definitely happy with the role. The same for part 2. And just,
part 2.
He's older now. Let's just throw him in there.
Yeah, I mean, part 2, I was really in that movie more than anyone else. I mean, it was a lot of scenes with just me and Chucky in that movie. So it's kind of hard to shield me from anything when I'm in every scene. What else we got?
Does anybody out there have questions? We're talking a lot. Does anybody else want to ask a question?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you just mentioned Ed Gale. He was here at Fandomfest a few years ago. Do you have any funny stories besides setting him on fire?
I do actually have one. All right, so I was 6 years old, okay? He's the first little person that I ever met. And so offset, I was 6 years old. I was a kid. I mean, I was acting like a kid. I was a kid. So I get into this new hotel when we get there in Chicago, I guess, or maybe it was in LA. And it's a beautiful hotel with this big bed, and he came up to meet me and everything, and I'm jumping on the beds with my 3-year-old sister. I'm like, you want to jump on the bed with us? And meanwhile, he was like 26 years old or something like that. So
Did he do it?
no, he didn't. But he reminds me of that story every time I see him. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. He doesn't fly, so he doesn't do conventions all that often. I mean, if you take a train there, we'll do it.
Anybody else?
I have one. In that one scene in the mental hospital, how did they get you to cry? Like for real?
So there's been a couple of different mixed stories that I've heard about that. I mean, I've heard that Tom Holland was yelling at me a bunch of things off camera, and my parents were kind of going through a divorce, and I think they were using that a little bit. I had an acting coach that was really good, and she told me something that I always remembered, which was, she said, like, picture there's a chair in front of you, and your mom or your dad is sitting in that chair, and now look at that chair and picture it empty, and know that they'll never be in that chair again. Okay, so this was, now, keep in mind, I was a pretty bright kid, so like, I did know the difference. But that was just something that she had told me to like kind of use for myself. Another thing about it was that I was very aware of that scene the whole time, from the first time I got the script. I kind of taught myself how to read the Child's Play script because I read it over and over and over again. And I had every line memorized, all mine, everybody else's lines. And I knew that I had that scene on page 48 that I had to do, or whatever it was. For some reason I think it was 48. But I was so afraid of doing that scene because I knew it was a difficult thing to do for any actor. So I think by the time that it came up, my anxiety was just so big on it that I just was able to just cry. And another thing about that is, I mean, I don't know if it's different nowadays, but we ran out of tape in the middle of doing that scene. We had to reload tape for like 15 minutes. And I just kept crying the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it on tape?
I don't know, some kind of tape. They had to stop and reload something. I remember saying, "Don't worry, Tom, I'll keep crying."
So over the years, we saw Chucky change and get a lot funnier. And I guess my question is, how much of that was just trying to keep the characters fresh, and how much of it was the franchise having more flexibility to explore? Because you could see that it was such a straight horror movie at first, and by Bride of Chucky, I mean, it was just funny as shit.
That's fun. well, the genre changed. That's what happened. The genre became more self-referential with Scream. Was it Scream?
Scream's around 97, yeah. Definitely, Freddy definitely changed the landscape.
I mean, Chucky, it's been an ongoing thing with me and Don Mancini, because when they did the first one, I was shooting Mississippi Burning when they needed me to do voice stuff. And so I couldn't do it. And they had to wait. And they decided not to wait, and they got somebody else to do it. He was a comedian. And they'd always wanted Chucky to have all these jokes and so forth. So they did it. They did the whole thing, and then they screened it, and people hated it. The whole thing didn't work at all. And my thing is that it's a horror film. No matter what the style of it is, you know, even if it's campy, it's still a horror film. There still has to be this level of, there has to be this monster, and the definition of a monster is a entity that is going to kill you, there is no way that you could argue your way out of it. I mean, there's nothing, it is going to get you. And that's just the idea of a monster, and that's who Chucky has to be. If Chucky is not that, nothing works, and nothing is funny. Having said that, once you do have that, then Chucky can be funny. You know, I know that there's this moment when somebody says something about the doll in the first one, and the elevator goes up, and you just hear, "Fuck you." That's funny, you know? Every time. So there's always room for that. You know, comedy in the serious aspect of it is relief. And I mean, I adore Bride. Of all the movies, that's the most successful for me. Just story-wise and writing-wise, and the way that they used Bride, Frankenstein, and interwove it into the theme of the movie, and she's just trying to turn her love affair with this ass, you know, into a real, like, he loves her and so forth. And he actually, for moments, does fall in love with her a little bit when she really does a really brilliant kill. You know, it's kind of dramatically bloody. And I think that's fun and campy, but still there has to be this danger there.
Have you guys kept any of the original scripts?
I have my original script. Oh, I have a bunch of notes in it too from when I was 6, with things spelled wrong and crossed out, different lines written in and everything. It's on sale on my website.
No.
So you said that Bride of Chucky has like the best remarks for the best story-wise movie. Do you guys have any funny things about Jimmy Fertilli that are funny stories to tell us about Jennifer or Don as director?
You know, the scene, you know, about the rubber, that was totally improvised. You know, that was just like, I mean, Jennifer's very good. Jennifer knows how to talk, you know? She seriously knows how to talk. So, I mean, and for me, I had been like doing these movies and they bring you in. They bring me into this recording studio with huge, sometimes Foley rooms, almost as big as this one. And I'm the only person in there, and there's like people, you know, talking to you through a loudspeaker, you know, that's in the, you know, and it's really kind of, it's horrible. I'm doing this like for 2 days. And finally, when Jennifer came, I was another person, and they would have her in a glass booth, and I'd be in a glass booth, so I could see her, and I could really react, and then it was more like fun. So yeah, I don't know if that's not funny, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, we have one back here. You good?
You go first. It's fine. No, you go first.
No.
Go first.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. During your work on the various child story films, what would you consider to be the most difficult experience during filming, or the most difficult moment?
I mean, for me, I mean, that, like we talked about that crying scene, that was like the most difficult scene to do, as far as pushing myself a little bit, but also, like what I was saying previously, there were some scenes where they could not get that doll to do what they wanted it to do. So, I mean, it really ended up being hours of doing it. And it's, you know, when you're up to 40, 50, 60 takes of the same thing, it gets aggravating for everybody, not just you, for everybody that's on the set. So that's not very comfortable. You know, that's not easy.
Just to give you an idea of what doing 60 takes is like, Scatman had to do 120 takes for a scene in the hotel one. What's that?
Shining.
The Shining. And they carried it like, screaming onto the set. They had to literally drag him onto the set. He was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." So it can really be. It can really. I mean, you know, 60 takes. It kind of gets hard to. You know, you get annoyed, you get actually angry, but then you think, well, I'm being paid for this. I really have no right to feel like I want to.
That works for you, Dan.
Chucky's gone through so many different design kind of incarnations from the first one to the most recent one, like, you know, just the straight face, and then he gets scarred up, and now he's the most recent, like, super detailed. What's your favorite version of Chucky?
I don't know if I have a favorite version of Chucky. I don't, my favorite Chucky toy is, I can tell you, it's the one that's in a box, and it has the it's Chucky and Tiffany.
Yeah, the match.
And you have the match, and they have the stuff, and it's in a box. I just think that's the best toy.
Yeah.
As far as the Chuckies go, they're all charming. They all have their, and they get better. I mean, the detail, at least the sculpture and that whole thing gets better and better with. I don't know about the animatronics or the puppetry, if that gets any better. I think there's less and less. They used to pay a lot more money to build these things and for the puppeteers to have time to rehearse them. And they're not paying anywhere near that now. So,
And it's not the same guys anymore either.
and it's not the same guys. Exactly.
Yeah.
So on Curse there was a lot of catch up. It made it really difficult, but I thought
it looked great. I mean, people always have said throughout the series, "Oh, I like the old one, but I like this one better." And, you know, I like the movie, but Chucky just doesn't look the same. It's like, well, do you? 30, 40 years ago, no, none of this looked the same. Why would it look the same? Like, so yeah, you know, I don't know. It changes with the time. Mm-hmm. And then this last one, Curse, by the way, gets a lot of people think that it was loaded with CGI. There's 3 seconds of CGI in that movie. There was one scene of CGI, and that's it.
Yeah, the CGI doesn't work. It's all, and besides that, how good does it have to be because it's a doll?
Yeah.
It really is a doll. So
Yeah. It's like, yeah, but he wasn't really alive.
You're saying that they occurred. Was that something they wanted to do just because it would be a fun thing that tag the movie with?
Oh, it's fun for me.
Notion to, that if there's a seventh one, they would build a story with your character.
Yeah. I don't know. Is the quick and easiest answer I could give you to that. I can tell you that the way that the last one ended is not exactly what was in the script. That's what my scene was, but it wasn't supposed to come after the credits. I don't know if that's a big secret.
there was a big problem.
Yeah.
And the problem is the Vice President of the United States came and talked to the head of the studio. And right after he talked to her, this was after Sandy Hook. And incidentally, we killed a little kid in that. There was so it was just horrible timing. And they said, we're pulling the movie. It's not gonna do anything. And Don Mancini rewrote it so that anything that would have been remotely offensive was taken out, and so the ending had to change. A lot of stuff had to change, and there was a reshoot.
And it's a bit of a shame because if you think about the fact that this film started off feeling like, first of all, everybody talked for years that they're making a remake. So this starts off like it might be some sort of remake. So the stars are revealed and everything. But it's this little kid who gets the doll and and the kid was supposed to die first. It was like the first death of the movie, as I remember it. So it would have been shocking. It would have been really would have been great to kill that kid, but it didn't work.
She wasn't that bad.
She was a fine kid. It's not the personal against her.
I don't know, but at any rate, it's very difficult to change a movie that radically and have it work.
Yeah.
And he managed to do it, but of course it would have been, since it was structured that way from the beginning, it would have been a much better film.
Yeah, and it pushed my scene to after the credits and off the rated version and off of Netflix too. So it happens. But to answer your question about Part 7, I'm not going to answer that. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. It's this new movie is supposed to happen. It should be out late next year. What it's going to be about and where Chucky's story is going to go, you'll have to see. And I'm not being super coy. I only know very little to begin with. So.
Alex, when you were 6 years old and you from childhood, did they let you have one of the two guys' dolls?
No, I never got one. Fiona has one though, funny enough. If I am in Part 7, that's going to be in my contract.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think Fiona has one and you don't, actually.
That's right. Well, Fiona worked, I gotta say, a lot harder than I ever did in any of those movies.
Of course. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it, but I would,
Yeah, you did.
she's got one, but I don't think Jennifer does. I don't think you do. I don't think. Just Don and David Kirshner and Kevin Yeager probably has a couple left. Most of the original ones, by the way, from the first film didn't really hold. They weren't built to last. They turned very orange. They don't really look, like they did in 1987 at all. I don't know what would happen with the new ones, but I just want one because I do these conventions all the time, so it would be cool to bring with me sometimes.
They look good in the house, too.
Yeah.
Next one. Later?
I have a question for Brad. At the end of Curse, when you actually managed to on-screen role as Charlotte Ray again, how was that for you after all the years since you actually got right in person?
It depends on who you're doing the scene with, tell you the truth. And I like to, I I liked the scenes I was doing. I liked her. I liked that scene. You know, it was nice. Fiona was there. You know, Claudia, my girlfriend, was there. And they were all running around taking pictures and giggling and laughing. And Fiona was just getting ready to take over. So it was fun. It was really actually a kind of a fun family moment there.
Hey, I was just wondering, what's your guys' favorite Chucky murder?
Well, the murders are painful for me because I usually have to do them in post, you know, with screaming and yelling, and by the time I get out of there, I don't hear my voice again for like a week.
No, I meant the murders that Chucky did. Not
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just saying I remember them by how badly my voice was ripped out. You'll have to ask Chucky that.
Yeah. Everybody likes the one in the second one where he pushes the guy down and replaces his eyes with doll eyes.
Yeah.
That was a pretty fun one. Yeah, I like that one. That might have been my favorite.
I think there was a teacher kill.
Yeah, that was a good one with the
Yeah.
roar. You know, you beat your teacher to death with the roar. Yeah, exactly. If this were one of the later movies, that would have been the soundtrack for that scene.
Definitely.
All right, what else you got?
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Oh, right here.
This isn't about child play, sorry.
Never mind.
Can you talk about Deadwood? Do you have a good story about Deadwood or about their experience?
Yeah, so I watched on HBO.
I apologize to 50%.
I don't know if the thing that made Deadwood work is David Milch, who is one of the two smartest people I've ever met. One of them was Langford Wilson, who was a playwright, and I worked in the theater. He was a playwright in residence. Extraordinarily bright human being, and Milch. And I had the honor of both of those people writing for me. I think series, I could just say that a series is an amazing. When I first started, I worked at Circle Rep. And the idea of that theater company was that there was a group of actors who were trained to be able to work with any writer. So we were trained to be tough, to stand up for ourselves, and to be available, and to really try to do what writers wanted us to do, and so forth. And so when I worked on Deadwood, it was like an exciting thing for me to be back and being written for. You know, to have that relationship with a writer.
And you get to swear an awful lot.
Catherine Hicks, your memories on her. She's a fantastic actress. Everything. You both wanted to work with her.
Yeah. Catherine is a very, very sweet lady. She's still a really dear friend in my life. I get to see her once or twice a year for this reason or that. We're doing a convention together in Indianapolis in a month, 2 months. Yeah, she had never played a mother before, which is funny because she's so known as a TV mom now, but she had never played a mother before when she did Child's Play, so she really took time to get to know me really well. We spent a lot of time together before the film. She's innocently, I don't want to say naive, but just like a little sweet, very sweet heart, you know? And she was looking for a way to connect with me at the time. And I think she was in the ladies' room or something, and she found this little bead from some crystal necklace that had fallen off on the floor. And I don't know if my acting coach had given her the idea or whatever, but she took that and she gave it to me and she said it was a magic ball that she had found. I remember I was 6. And she had like this magic ball that she found, and as long as I had it with me, whatever she said or whatever. But at the time I treasured it a lot. Like, she was really, it was very important to her to make a connection with me, and she did. And we still have a very strong connection. And she married, for those who don't know, she married Kevin Yeager, who was the creator of Chucky, the head puppeteer. And they're still together and they have a nice life. They're very sweet.
Anybody else? You got
I
anything?
hate you. No.
During filming, what would you consider to be your most favorite experience?
I liked melting Chucky down with all that hot wax in the second one. The doll wasn't actually there, but I got to pull this lever and it came out like crazy and it was a lot of fun. I have this behind the scenes video. I actually have about 40 minutes of behind the scenes footage from Child's Play 2 that nobody has and has never been released. And if it were up to me, I would totally just sell it. But it's Don Mancini's camcorder footage, and I think he has the extension of it. He has way more stuff, and I don't know what he wants to do with it someday. But I have all the behind the scenes footage of doing that scene, and I obviously had a great time doing it. I was laughing a lot. It was fun.
Are you is that a question going to be?
It could be applied to both of you.
What was fun? What was one of the more fun things in the series? That's Chucky.
As Charles did.
Like I say, most of my stuff was voice work, and it's very quick. And Ricky's not allowed to. That's once it's paid for, it's the property of the studio and not his, and he can't show it around. So it kind of works like that. I've gotten vague ideas of stories that weren't done that I would have loved to have been done, but they never will be.
Yeah, that's a little bit of how I feel about what might be to come with this. But yeah. Well, the first film was written by Don and revised by 2 other people, and worked together, I guess, at some level to make that one. And then Don has pretty much taken over all the writing from that. But yeah, the studios have a lot of control of everything. They're not writing the words on the page, but there is, always a guy who is the whatever creative executive of planning of whatever for this project, and he gets paid to have an opinion on your script. That's his job, so they're going to try to make changes, Yeah. Thank you.
What are some of the stories that weren't used? Can you share them?
No. I mean, I really can't.
No, I believe you.
So you talked a bit about how you feel the genre has changed, and maybe political machinations have caused the studios to pull some punches. Is that something that you think is really widespread in our current political climate, or is it something you've only seen very rare?
I think that's.
I think that was rare.
I think that it depends what's going on in the world. But if someone has an opportunity to be offended, like especially when something like in that particular case, when something is very big news that relates to what could be happening at any level, they'll put their hands in. But luckily most people still get to get their ideas out the way that they are. But there are times when that'll happen for sure.
Look, there were a couple of things in Curse that I found offensive. I mean, and certainly my girlfriend does, stabbing her in the belly, and killing the kid, which didn't happen. When I got the script and I read it, that's the first thing I said, I think this is a little, don't you think people are going to find this? And he said, no. I mean, he said yes and no. And then he gave me a very good reason why I think it would be, like it was a very good thing to do. And this is, genre is horror. and people know what they're getting into when they go and see it. And there's no way you can go to a horror film and not see something that's extremely misogynist. It's just somehow built into the genre, and what's the point? I mean, and it's not safe either, you know, as far as viewing goes. But I think, you know, there's an audience and people like it, and it, you know, it should be done.
Yeah, I personally don't see anything safe of offending then. If there's a purpose for why you know, in any kind of creative format, if your creative idea or plan for something, I don't care who gets offended by it, personally. Unfortunately, when a bunch of money is put into something, that they have to worry about whether people are going to think sometimes. But especially in a genre like horror, that we're given the opportunity to offend you if we want to. You know what you're coming to see, right? You know.
We have time for one more.
Wasn't the point of the Chucky movies to show that nothing's safe, not even for children?
What?
Wasn't the point of the Chucky movies to show that nothing is safe, not even for children?
I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that that every child goes to sleep, and their dolls, as shadows start to cross and things begin to take on a sinister aspect. We need our monsters. We have an instinct that we can be prey. It's inbred in our DNA, and it plays out in our dreams. And that's why horror is so much fun, because we are deeply and naturally afraid of monsters who are going to come and eat us, with which you cannot negotiate. And that's what a horror film is. And I think that Chucky is a really good horror icon because he's a doll. And we have all been terrified of our dolls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
On that.
The last thing that we have for you is, so your laugh is very distinct, Brad. Is there any way?
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Vincent and Brad Dourif.
I can't believe you did it. I can't believe you did it so readily. That was good. Did you film that? Maybe.
I got part of it.
Maybe. I saw her with her phone.